I'm learning things. I don't know how I'm learning them. Welcome to the Charlotte Buzz, where we drink beer from local breweries while telling stories about the neighborhoods they're from. I'm Chrissy, and this is Drew. And today, we are actually, going to do something very special because we are going to taste two beers from two breweries.
Ooh.
But this is actually in honor of the completion of round 1 of Buzz Bracket voting. And we decided to go with two beers this week because there was one matchup that was so tight and back and forth that it really felt like you were watching UNC Duke battle it out in Instagram voting all weekend long.
It's pretty tight.
Yeah, it was nuts. Yeah. So we are actually going to be sampling both Cabarrus Brewing Company and Salud Cerveceria. Every time. We need to learn words.
Yeah, I think that works. They know what you're talking about.
So Cabarrus and Salud, we're going to hit the two of those up. The stories we have prepared today are from Cabarrus County, from the greater Concord area. So we're going to start with the Cabarrus beer, and we'll do Salud just before we get into the winners of round 1 of the bracket. So what do you got to tell us about this beer?
Yeah, so today we're drinking Double Stitch Double IPA, Dippa, from Cabarrus Brewing. It is brewed with pale ale, caramel, Munich wheat, and flaked oats. Quite a bit of hops in this one. Mercur, Citra, Galaxy, and Amarillo, and twice dry hopped with Citra, Amarillo, and Vic's Secret for fruity and citrus flavor and aroma.
Are you impressed with that pour? Because I really thought it was not going to go well.
It was this big old... Got a full-size growler again, so...
Yeah, I can't handle that. It's not... I could do it fine if I wasn't reaching around my mic all awkwardly like I am.
Now, we did try 2 beers while we were there getting this.
We did.
And we forgot which one was which while we were drinking them.
Sure.
So we think we picked the right one. Pretty sure we did.
We gonna learn today.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try it. I think we picked the right one.
Okay.
So, it'll drink. Double IPA. Feels kind of full.
Yeah.
I say that from having tried the other one while we were there. Felt a little bit lighter. I feel like watery has a bad connotation, but it was just less thick.
I think both of these will be like that because they have oats in them.
That could be it.
It seems like both of these have oats, and I think that's what gives it a full body, as they say.
I don't know what to describe the flavor as. I just think it's good. I think oats is a decent, like, now I know you might have just like suggested that into my brain, you know? I almost want to say it's sweet, but it like hints at sweet, but isn't quite sweet.
They say a subtle sweetness.
I mean, subtle is a very good word for it because it's like, it almost feels sweet, but it doesn't quite feel sweet.
Yeah. So I didn't read, I skipped a sentence in their description on purpose.
Okay.
And it says this sentence is, it has a fuller body from the wheat and oats and a subtle sweetness.
Hey, look at me, I'm growing. Good job, I'm learning things. I don't know how I'm learning them.
You hit that one right on the head there.
That's awesome.
So is it my turn now?
Yeah. You just made me feel so much better about my ability to do anything at all.
Well, I remember that from yesterday that it was like heavier, and I think this was sweeter than the other one. I'd said it had more of like a fruit juice taste.
Yeah, you did say that.
And I wanted to see
if I stood my ground on what I thought.
The sentence I skipped, you said it yourself. So, good job.
Thank you. I mean, for what it's worth, I don't know that I actually heard you read the other part of it either, because I was too busy trying not to spill that everywhere, but...
Yeah, so this is definitely on the It'll Drink.
Oh, yeah.
It's our wheelhouse.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's up there with what we've had so far. I still think I like Heist's.
Like Citroquence?
No, that's not the one we have.
Blurred is
Stratisfaction. Yeah. I think it's right below that. The High Stratisfaction is my favorite that we've had on
the show.
The podcast, yeah.
That's what we should have been doing from the beginning, is like ranking them all, because I don't know that I could, like, going back. Stratisfaction I enjoyed, but I don't remember it enough to be able to rate it now.
Yeah, I think
we need to start doing that.
Yeah, we need to start doing an Untapped just for the show.
Yeah.
So, all right, especially since we use the scores in our stuff. So,
yeah. So, It'll Drink. It's delicious, and I'm super proud of my learning skills.
And it's 8.8%.
I
didn't say that.
So, all right.
Yeah.
So, Cabarrus Brewing Company, founded in 2016. I believe they actually started the process in 2015, but it just, all the red tape, they were officially founded in 2016. They are in the historic Gibson Mill, which actually houses a whole bunch of... there's a
lot going on there.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there, but...
They got you an escape room.
Yeah, they do have an... We need to do that.
Maybe when we hit up High Branch.
Yeah. Which...
Can't be a Monday or a Tuesday.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later. I don't have a whole lot else with that. Their website didn't really give me a whole lot to go on in terms of their specific history. I know they name a lot of their beers for history in the region, but again, their website left me a little disappointed with the descriptions behind it. Like, it was very clear they were named for a historical purpose.
Yeah.
But that wasn't really brought out.
You just kind of had to be in the know.
Yeah. I was a little disappointed, but Cabarrus, if you want to revamp your website or upgrade your copy or any of that, you let us know, because we'll make that happen. All right, so like I said, we'll get to Salud's beer as we get into the bracket stuff. But if you want to start us off with a story, let's see what you've got about the greater Concord area.
Yeah, so I figured our podcast is called The Charlotte Buzz, and we're talking about Concord. So I figured I'd talk about something in Concord named after Charlotte.
I can appreciate that logic.
And that would be Charlotte Motor Speedway.
What?
Race Hell Praisdale.
I hear you, Foster. Where are you at, man?
Yeah. So, a guy named Curtis Turner.
Okay.
Was an early, one of the first drivers in NASCAR. And he visited the recently built Daytona Speedway in 1959 and decided, I want to build one.
I mean, like
when you see something as, I
mean, he sounds kind of like you. I want one of those. I'm going to make that happen.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you see such a landmark as the Daytona Motor Speedway, you can...
Yeah, I mean, I've never been there, but I can imagine
Yeah.
What that must have been like.
So he had made all his money in the lumber industry and was also a NASCAR driver himself. So he happened to own land about 10 miles northeast of Charlotte.
Okay.
They didn't straight out come and like say it, but I imagine that's where the Speedway is now.
Yeah.
They didn't like directly go, and that's where he built it. But
they wanted to leave you guessing.
Yeah. He ended up partnering with Bruton Smith. He was a promoter at the local Concord Motor Speedway and the Charlotte Fairgrounds, where I imagine they raced at the Charlotte Fairgrounds as well. You may have heard that name.
I have not.
I've told you about them.
Okay.
So Bruton Smith
Clearly
Boulevard.
I listen when you talk often.
Bruton Smith Boulevard. If you go to Concord Mills.
Yes, you have.
If you get off the I-85 exit, Concord Mills Boulevard is to the left. Bruton Smith to the right.
You're right.
Pretty sure he fought pretty hard to get it named Bruton Smith Boulevard. Sure. It's about like Jerry Richardson putting a statue of himself at a stadium.
Yeah.
Kind of weird.
That's the thing.
Yeah. Anyways, so the pair got together and went straight to NASCAR. I imagine NASCAR hadn't been around too long at this point. So they can just like go up to NASCAR and say, hey, we're building a racetrack and we want to run a 600-mile event on Memorial Weekend to rival the Indy 500. And they said, okay.
I mean, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
You got a place for us to race these cars? Sure.
Yeah, so this is 1959, and they're going to run that race on this racetrack that they haven't built yet, Memorial Day 1960.
I mean, that's ambitious.
Yeah. So
if you can pull that off, you do you, man.
Yeah. So they start construction, and right after construction started, they found out that turns 1 and 2 and much of the planned infield was a solid slab of granite. Not a lot of surveying done in 59, I imagine. It was like, let's build here. So they had to spend $700,000.
And I mean, like, not that 59. That's that long ago, but long enough that, oh, God, that means a lot more.
And I didn't look it up.
What are you doing?
I'll put data on the screen.
He's going to forget in editing, don't you worry.
Of how much that's worth today.
Yeah. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, go hop over to YouTube in the first, 10, 15 minutes of the podcast to find out
how much that's worth. Because it's very important. You need to know it.
Yeah.
So that's how much he spent on the dynamite, $700,000. And that was his the original intended budget for the entire thing.
Oh, God. All right.
Yeah. So, weather also didn't help. A snowstorm.
Of course. Naturally.
Yep.
Yikes.
Delayed the pouring of concrete in the spring of 1960.
Why do you need to pour concrete if you got a full-on slab of granite anyway?
That's true. Just
level that sucker out. I mean, I don't know how precise. I know how imprecise dynamite is, but
just
I mean,
get it out of there.
Come on.
So, anyways, they after all that happened, he said he begged NASCAR to push it back 6 weeks to June 19th, 1960. With all that said, 6 weeks isn't
a lot of time.
Sounds like they built this joker pretty quick.
I mean, yeah, like 6 weeks is still nothing. That's like touch-ups in the construction world.
Yeah, I guess it's just an oval
and in that massive
of concrete.
I mean, yeah, but a whole lot of bleachers and stuff. But damn,
I didn't have any numbers on the like how many could fit in the grandstands originally. I don't have those numbers.
Yeah, I imagine that was updated, but I mean,
they later.
Still.
So his original budget, $700,000, ended up costing $2 million. But he did.
No big.
But he was able to get an inaugural race in 1960.
Okay.
So that was called the World 600.
Ooh.
And the winner was Joe Lee Johnson.
Hey.
Completed the 400 laps and won the World 600 at an average speed of 107 miles an hour.
Quite frankly, I don't know a whole lot about racing. I've been to several races, actually. Again, coming from the Northeast, it's actually come from Pocono 500 area. Like, that's my backyard. It's really that close. You don't go out that weekend because we don't have the infrastructure for it like we should. But 107 doesn't seem like a lot.
It looked like it was about on par with the rest at that time.
Oh, at that time, yeah. Do you know, and you may not, what they kind of race at now?
Well, I think it's gone up and down quite a bit.
I mean, I know there's a lot of regulations and whatnot,
but getting faster and faster. the fastest I saw for the Coca-Cola 600, I think
Okay.
I think the fastest I saw was like 160.
Okay. That I was kind of thinking that. Like, my brain went to like 200 for a second, and I was like, I feel like a 157 type of thing is in my
Yeah.
brain for some
I
reason.
think now it's like sitting right at 140
Okay.
for it.
Yeah, I can imagine between like safety regulations and banking curves and new technology to increase, but then all
and
the
they got restrictor plates and whatnot so that they don't just fly up in the air.
Yeah, I can imagine that coming and going a good bit.
So yeah, it's been up and down for a while.
Mm-hmm.
With all that over budget, you know, they started off in turmoil.
I believe it. I mean, that's more than double. That's like 2.5 times your original budget.
Yeah.
But you still did it dang fast. And
yeah, so very quickly, Turner was kicked out by his board of directors.
Because of the money to build it, or like hostile takeover?
Well, yeah, I think he just didn't repay the debts fast enough, and
okay,
just
they assumed it was poor management. And, okay,
yeah. So they pretty much kicked him out, and filed for a Chapter 10 bankruptcy in 1961.
Wow. Okay.
So
I mean, again, a bankruptcy feels like a more adulty concept than I feel adultish, but yikes.
So after they filed for bankruptcy, Bruton Smith ended up leaving as well.
Okay.
He ended up going to Illinois and owned like several car dealerships there.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah. So after the bankruptcy, the judge handed the Speedway over to like a group of investors, and they were able to get out of bankruptcy, like pay off all their debts in 2 years.
I mean,
and then ended up paying off like the rest of the mortgage of the place by 1967.
Wow.
And actually on the infield of the racetrack, they held a mortgage burning ceremony.
That's
to
cool.
Like highlight that, you know, they no longer owed on it.
That's cool. I dig that.
So during all this, while people were working hard to get it out of the gutter, Bruton Smith is making money up in Illinois. That's Illinois.
What?
Don't speak French.
Oh my god. Oh, good lord.
Yeah, so he's in Illinois making some money and is slowly buying back in. And by 1975 has regained a majority ownership.
I mean, rock on.
While he was buying all those, buying up all those shares, they had added a road course to the infield in 1971. So yeah, Bruton hanging back, buying back in, gets full or majority stockholdership. Stockholdership, I don't know.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I'll take it.
And he decides he's going to start an expansion plan. He takes back over a couple of the guys who were running the show as the general manager or whatever ended up leaving because they said it's effectively being ran from Illinois. And
I was going to say, listen, we don't speak French.
Yeah.
But I do. That ain't French.
Oh, okay. So his new expansion plan included new grandstands and luxury suites added along with modernized concessions and restrooms.
Ooh.
So you can
Eat
pee
and
at the
poop.
track. I mean, if you're going to be drinking all this beer, you're going to have to...
Sure.
You have to hit the latrine. Since we're going with the
We're
French.
multicultural.
Isn't that French? Latrine?
Water closet. WC.
What's latrine? Swear that's French. Anyways.
Maybe I was in French class. We said, like, can I go to the WC, which is WC, the water closet?
Because military. They have a lot of stuff that came from the French. I thought latrine was one of those.
It might could be. It may just be one of those kind of more historical terms that aren't used. And so when I learned, it was more like this is what's culturally used.
Yeah.
Very well could be.
So, but that was only for people who came to the races. He's like, hey, let's add condos where people could live there year round.
Like at the racetrack.
Yeah, you didn't know those were there?
No.
Yeah, you can live there.
So it's kind of like living on a golf course.
Yeah, but it's a racetrack.
What in the world?
So good luck sleeping.
I mean, yeah.
During the All-Star race.
Again, like I said, is Pocono 500 is kind of in my backyard. So my aunt's mom, I guess my great aunt, is that how that works? I don't know.
Yeah.
She lived within a mile that, any race weekend, if we happened to be there, you could not get a word in.
When I was going to school at UNCC from our house, you could.
That's nuts.
Yeah, you could hear it.
But that's interesting. I didn't know they had like
fireworks. Huh. But yeah.
I imagine it like a golf course, although much less tranquil.
Yeah. So they built 40 then. I think they ended up adding like 11 more later. Some number in there. It's near the 50s.
Okay.
A 135,000 square foot, 7-story facility.
Okay.
To house the Speedway's corporate offices, ticket office, gift shop, leased office space, and the Speedway Club, an inclusive dining and entertainment facility.
Ooh.
So, I mean, you can live there, you can work there, you can buy shit there, or
you can feel like you're
buy
like
stuff there. Family friendly.
I sort of cussed earlier.
Oh.
But I think 1 or 2 slips is acceptable. So you can feel like you're on vacation there, even though you're living there. I mean, that's kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah. And have a bunch of drunk rednecks.
All day or day.
Yeah.
Race help, race day.
Yeah. So they also added a 1,200 fixture permanent lighting system. And it became the first modern super speedway to host night racing.
Ooh.
Because of that.
That's cool.
Yeah. That was like $7 million or something.
I believe it. I mean, that's.
They also have, at the time when they put it up, the world's largest high definition video board. It's about 200 feet wide.
The world's?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
At the time.
I mean, yeah, but.
Yeah. So it was 200 feet wide, 80 feet tall.
Wow.
And Texas Motor Speedway now has the tallest.
Sure.
But
I mean, still, that's cool. Not only, not in the state, not in the country, in the world.
Yeah. And they actually utilize that more than just races. So if you go to the annual Christmas light thing, they have a Christmas movie up there.
Oh, that's cool.
And they also do drive-in nights. Or
they
did.
Go.
I don't know if they still do.
I've been to a drive-in once. It was one of my life goals to go, and I don't know.
We got one back home.
Well, I'm also from Pennsylvania, hour outside of New York City. Ambient light is everywhere, and it just we don't have as many sort of historical type of things in our greater area as the South does. So it was something. I mean, in the last less than 10 years ago, I went to a drive-in theater for the first and only time in my life.
Good.
I like it. I want to go.
Yeah, so they may still do that, but they had drive-in movie nights with it. And, the racetrack actually has held up to 380 events in a year.
Oh, wow.
Not even sure how that's possible.
I know. I was like, math. How does that work? Who's fudging numbers?
It includes 3 large NASCAR races. The Coca-Cola 600.
Shocker. It was actually used for what it's built for. Okay.
Which I believe is the one we went to.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. Memorial Day. Memorial weekend. The All-Star race, the night race, and the Bank of America Roval 400 was new last year. It's where they utilize the infield road course and part of the oval.
Oh, that's cool.
Interestingly about the Roval 400 is it is one of the few races in the U.S. that is in kilometers, not miles.
Ooh.
So where the Coca-Cola 600 is 600 miles,
Mm-hmm.
the Roval 400 is 400 kilometers.
Interesting. That is actually interesting.
Yeah. Don't know why. But
I live in a world where the only kilometer breakdowns I know are 5Ks and 10Ks and that kind of shenanigans. Yeah. Outside of actual like road races where my feet are the ones propelling me.
Yeah, I know
couldn't
how it
tell you
feels
anything.
to walk like 9K, but, not interested in that.
But yeah, 400K, I couldn't tell you what that means, but...
So I'm just going to spit off some interesting facts.
Do it. Tell me.
I would say fun facts, but a couple of them are not fun.
Oh, great.
Um,
I'm going to drink beer then.
Yeah. So when I first went to the racetrack and heard about it and all that, it was called the Lowe's Motor Speedway. Lowe's had bought
the building, Home Depot Lowe's.
Yeah.
Okay.
They bought the naming rights in 1999 and kept it for 10 years.
Huh. Okay.
And then it was reverted back to Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Sure.
So I went to a couple pole nights and races during that time. They tried to do IndyCar racing from 1997 to 1999, but a crash led to a car losing a wheel, which went into the grandstands, killed 3 people.
Oh, God. I
and
didn't
injured
mean to
8.
laugh. I went... Okay, so interlude.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I laughed at that before I heard the actual stats that followed, there's a Dane Cook skit from back in, 15 years ago now, where he's talking about being a girl being in the stands and getting hit by a tire, and like, how much would it suck to be at a race and get hit by a tire? Like, that tire hunted Mary down. And that's why I giggled. Yeah. And then, oh God, that's actually real. And that's not cool. So sorry for anyone involved in that.
Yeah, so after that incident, the race was canceled and has not been back.
Fair enough.
Actually, the catch fencing that you see kind of hover over the track was actually heightened after that incident for all Speedway motorsport events.
That's quite the accident if it's not only affecting policies there, but just universally. Mm-hmm.
And this, I remember, 2000 NASCAR All-Star race, the pedestrian bridge that crosses from the parking lot to the track fell.
Oh.
Injuring 107 fans when an 80-foot long section fell onto the highway below.
Oh, goodness.
I think it fell about 17 feet.
Yikes.
So, apparently, the bridge builder, Tyndall Corporation, used an improper additive to help the concrete cure faster, and it actually
weakened,
corroded the structure's steel.
That's
the Tyndall, of course, repaired the bridge at no cost. Mm-hmm. But I would feel like I'd get somebody else to do it.
Yeah. Yikes.
So I do remember that happening. A few movies have been filmed at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Oh, yeah?
Days of Thunder, classic Tom Cruise movie. One of the best. Cold Trickle.
I want to smile and nod at you because naturally I've not seen it because I've not seen anything ever.
That or Top Gun. You must hate Tom Cruise.
That's what it is. I've not seen Mission Impossible either.
Well, that's okay. I'm okay with that. But Top Gun and Days of Thunder, you need to watch. Talladega Nights.
I've seen that one.
Yeah, Shake and Bake.
I'm all hyped up on Mountain Dew.
Yeah, Shake and Bake. And
they use the Lake Norman house for that too.
Yep.
Carry on, sorry.
Logan Lucky, recently.
I have no idea what that is.
It was about some heist. He worked at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
I'm intrigued.
And decided to steal something.
Is it based on a true story or?
I don't think so.
Okay. Either way, I'm intrigued. I'd like to see that.
Came out in 2017. I haven't seen it.
I've never even heard of it.
I have heard of it.
And I lived here at the time, so I feel like that's a little strange, but.
Yeah, so Charlotte Motor Speedway, located in Concord.
Nice.
Interesting.
Well, I'm going to take us a little bit more historical, and by a little bit, I mean a decent bit more than that. But
1959. A little further back than that.
A little further back. But mine is not nearly as in depth on just one topic as yours. I kind of just have a few little sporadic tidbits about the general Concord area that I thought were very interesting.
Okay.
Wanted to sort of highlight 2 or 3 little things, and then that way we can give some more time to the bracket.
Cool.
But I wanted to, because there are so few breweries that we're going to cover probably big picture on this podcast, I wanted to at least hit a couple of different areas of history in the area and then see where we get next time we hit a Concord brewery. And maybe we'll just make some second or third rounds there to dive into a bit deeper. But some quick facts on the Concord area itself. It was actually founded as the seat of government in 1796, and it was actually after there was a disagreement between the
Was that for Cabarrus County? The seat of government?
Yes.
For Cabarrus County? Okay.
Yes, sorry. So it's Cabarrus County. There was this disagreement between the German settlers and they call them the Scot-Irish settlers. So I'm not sure if it's, some, like if there's a community that maybe just culturally insensitively we've named the Scot-Irish because we couldn't pull them apart.
I've heard about them before.
But there was a disagreement between the two over where the county seat of government should be in Cabarrus County. And so they finally decided on this 26-acre plot of land, which, fun enough, is how 26 Acres Brewing gets their name. Yeah. We'll talk about that whenever we taste some of their beer. But they decided on this 26-acre site, and they named it Concord, which actually means harmony. And so it was bringing together the idea of the area and then finally coming to agreement and finding this harmony. And so that's how they named the area that they built the county seat on.
Did they name it Concord or Concord?
Concord?
Siri, listen to this. It's Concord.
Concord.
Not Concord.
Did you mean Concord? And so something that's kind of cool is that even today, that name of harmony still sort of lives on because it's a very blended community of industrial, commercial, and residential development sites all together working in harmony.
Nice.
So I guess basically what I'm going to do for you, like I said, a handful of small little things, is I'm basically going to give you like the Wikipedia version of what Concord is.
Okay.
Concord. So one thing that I thought was very interesting is that Concord has 5 sister cities.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, well, what the frick does that mean? So there's this actual like international organization called Sister Cities International. It is a nonprofit citizen diplomacy network that creates and strengthens partnerships between the U.S. and foreign communities, which they actually have roots from the Eisenhower days from a conference on September 11th, 1956. Which I actually thought was very interesting because it was a conference that was the 11th and 12th that was talking about the need for unity, the need for different communities to get involved and understand each other and to develop. And so that over time and through kind of various programs ultimately became the Sister Cities program. And I kind of see it as kind of like a Big Brother, Big Sister program, but for kind of nowheresville cities.
Yeah.
As in, like, it's not typically, it's not a capital city or a bigger city like that. And so there's just multiple pairings of a city with another city to try to discuss commerce, discuss government problems, political issues, sharing all the different things that they have had issues with or whatever, just to basically open the communication, open the involvement and investment, and just allow people to share their issues and work together and see other people's problems and just, show basically we're all alike, but we can also help each other out where maybe we're not seeing where we could help. Yeah. So I just thought it was cool because, like I said, Concord has 5 sister cities and 2 are from Ireland. One is Killarney, and the other is County Kerry. We have one from the Bahamas, that is Freeport. And then we have 2 from Italy that are Siena and Tuscany.
Hmm.
So I just thought that was a really cool program that I had no idea existed. And I thought we had some actually pretty cool sister cities.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I say we. I'm not from Concord. I'm from Charlotte. Not from Charlotte, but... I mean, stop talking.
Yeah. Nah.
But I just thought that was a really cool program. Didn't know anything about it. And I just really like the communication that we have between these smaller cities. And I have a master's in political science. I have a bachelor's in political science. The whole shebang. And so... it's something I didn't even know existed. And I just think it's a really cool way for the international community to come together and help each other grow on a less well-known scale. Yeah. So I guess that's why I took my interest. So something else that I wanted to talk a little more historically about the Concord area is the Coleman Manufacturing Company. This was the country's first solely owned and operated cotton mill by African Americans. So
I was going to ask if they made lamps for camps.
Coleman. I see what you did there. I was like, what are you talking about? And so this ran from 1899 to 1904. Okay. Solid 5 years. And basically, yes, it was historically groundbreaking. Really cool in that aspect. But it was ultimately a project sort of suggested by Frederick Douglass, who said that we should start having these black-run mills and, starting to, not quite affirmative action, but we need to start empowering this aspect of the community that we are just screwing over big time, really. And so they actually made some attempts to do similar things in Alabama, which shockingly failed. Go figure, Alabama. As well as in Houston, which also failed. And so North Carolina was the first place that it actually succeeded, granted minimally or briefly. Yeah. And so even in its 5 years, it had very multiple financial struggles that kind of ebbed and flowed, and actually caused it to shut down temporarily in 1902 for a minute. So it wasn't even open those full 5 years. But the building itself does still stand and is on the National Register of Historic Places.
Cool.
Alongside all of our architecture mans from last week.
Oh.
But the man who ran it was Warren Clay Coleman, and he has a really interesting story because he was born a slave, and then by the 1900s, when he was running this mill, he was the wealthiest man of color in the state. Which, this could become another, depending on your views on everything, is it could become a little iffy, I reckon, on how black you view him as. Based on the history that I read on him, because his picture popped up and I was like, that looks like a white guy.
Yeah.
And really his mother was mixed and his father was white.
So a third?
Maybe, yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah. So he wasn't, very strictly African American, and so I don't know what kind of controversy may have come from that, but nonetheless, he is credited as the wealthiest African American. He was born into slavery as a child. He was actively a slave in his younger years. But even then, in 1871, before he was running this mill, he owned and operated his own general store at 22 years old and had a lot of really good interactions with the white clientele, and so it was...
he kind of acted as a bridge.
Yeah. That's pretty much where his role fell. And
well, good for him.
Yeah. And so the mill actually kind of went under in 1904. Like I said, it had all of these financial issues, even still, but it actually closed down in 1904 because Coleman died, quote, suspiciously. And so there's also a very unfortunate historical context that could mean several different things there. That could just be, a power struggle within the mill. It could be terrible white people saying we've had enough of this, and I have no idea. There's no real follow-up on it either, which unfortunately doesn't surprise me for that time period either.
Gibson clan.
It might could be. But yeah, so he unfortunately, he got sick and died very suddenly. And some people have thought it was suspicious, which quite frankly, I thought it was a little suspicious before I even read that someone else thought it was suspicious. And I had been thinking of it in the context of he's the wealthiest black man in the state, and is running the first and only fully owned and operated black mill. And I mean, him dying suddenly off the bat doesn't look good to me. It doesn't mean it does.
Could have been tuberculosis.
It could have been a million things. I mean, it was 1904.
The bubonic.
It could have been a million things, but nonetheless, still marks a really important part of history. And so I wanted to just kind of highlight that because I had no idea. And I could talk more about the mill, but we've talked about mills before in the past, and there's just kind of no point in diving deeper into mill life. He did have some more aspirations for having, kind of a mill school and mill housing and all those things we have talked about, but obviously it just didn't get a chance to get there. So that was another aspect of the history that is just here outside of Charlotte. And the last thing I wanted to mention is, actually, I'm going to grab my computer here. And I just wanted to give you a fun rundown of some notable people from the Concord area. Boy, you are stealing my beer. I will steal your face.
I'm out.
I mean, there's another half a growler over here. Would you like to refill yourself?
Yes, please.
Out of control. Don't fill it too much because we're about to put some of this Salud in there as soon as I'm done talking. So you may actually just want to wait a minute. And can
I just pour a little bit?
Yes. But we're about to do Salud in a second.
I just want to pour a little bit.
Mm-hmm. All right, so for Concord, some notable people. You're going to foam the crap out of that. This is what I learned on day one.
I was trying to do it quick.
The Avett brothers are from Concord.
The band?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Right? I did not either.
I feel like that's something I should know.
Warren Clay Coleman, who is, oh goodness, who is our resident richest black man in the 1900s. I'm going to skip some of these, and quite frankly, I don't know a lot of these names, but some of them I feel like you might know.
Okay.
We have Jay Graham, collegiate and NFL running back, and assistant coach to Florida State.
Never heard of her.
We have Billy Goodman, professional baseball player for the Boston and Chicago Sox, respectively. We've got a bunch of actors and actresses. We've got Carol Barbie, television and movie actress, writer, and producer. We have Jody Hill, film director, screenwriter, producer, actor. Jimmy Hitchcock, former NFL cornerback. Nikita Koloff, retired WCW professional wrestler. Lance,
female? I'm assuming Nikita.
I believe so. I don't know.
Okay.
Lance Lewis, former NFL wide receiver.
Never heard of her.
Mike Morton, retired NFL linebacker.
It's vaguely familiar.
Bradley Pinion, NFL punter for the 49ers.
Never heard of her.
Lamont Reed, former NFL and CFL cornerback. Rachel Riley, reality television personality and winner of Big Brother 13.
Well, good for her.
Do you know who that is?
No, never heard of her.
Okay. Corey Seager, professional baseball player for the LA Dodgers.
Oh,
I was like, I recognize that name.
The brothers. There's another one. Ain't there?
Okay.
Kyle
Seager,
Yep.
professional baseball player for the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, I know them.
Ish Smith, basketball player for Wake Forest in the NBA. Okay. I like that his name is Ish.
I thought the Seegers played at South Stokes, though.
Maybe. It just says that they were born in Concord. That's all. From Concord.
Okay.
Bubba Wallace, NASCAR driver. I don't know anything about NASCAR to know who that is. And the name that kind of stuck out to me that I just thought was super interesting and I had to dive a little deeper in, and that'll be my last little segment here on Concord, was Blanche Taylor Moore, serial killer.
Oh.
And that was the name that, based on that kind of a intro.
Oh. I'm thinking of the Ackley brothers.
Mm.
Dustin Ackley played for the Mariners as well.
I see.
And he went to South Stakes.
I see.
But yeah, I knew the Seegers were from North Carolina at least.
So my last person on my notable list that stuck out to me most based on that, glorious occupation.
The serial killer?
Yes. Blanche Taylor Moore, born in Concord. It sounds like she spent most of her adult life in Alamance County.
Okay.
Alamance.
Burlington.
Mm-hmm. But her parents were mill workers. Her father was a preacher. And there's some really, I didn't dive too deep into it because it's a little disturbing, but...
You gotta look out for those preacher's kids, though.
But really, though, sometimes, especially, even up to, 10 years history, it's not long ago and still happening that
have
things
you seen Footloose?
I have
she
not,
just caused
actually.
all the trouble.
I have not.
You think it's Kevin Bacon, but it wasn't.
Well, no,
it was the daughter.
Why I didn't dive too deep into this was, unfortunately, the corruption in the church. And this comes from a church girl who does currently regularly attend church. Mm-hmm. The corruption in the church is atrocious and terrible. And so this girl, they said this thing of basically she was prostituted out by her father. And all kinds of abuse happened. And, it was horrid. And basically they were saying she could quote scripture and turn it wildly sexually lewd in the same breath of a sentence. And she just had a very unfortunate upbringing, which doesn't excuse anything, but nonetheless, it's where she started in life. And so lived in Alamance County. And basically they have convicted her of murdering one.
When was this?
Oh, don't you worry.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you. They convicted her of one. They are positive but dropped charges on 3 and suspicious of at least 3 to 5 more.
Okay.
If not more.
Okay.
They're the rest were sort of left unmentioned until there was more proof per se. But she is still in jail going through appeals trials. She's 86 or something right now. She was sentenced to a lethal injection on January 18th, 1991. So you and I were both pretty young, but she was basically, her life was this crazy string of being married, having affairs, being reporting sexual assault and all this stuff, and then arsenicking, if that's a word, all these guys. And that's, okay. I was you might be familiar with this because it's your area. So there was multiple people killed with arsenic. And so her father died of, quote, a heart attack. And then her mother, she got married. Her mother-in-law died. And then her first husband died of a heart attack. She was dating this other guy that she worked with and then filed 2 sexual assault files. And then the second husband died. And then the third husband ended up in the hospital. And so she unfortunately, I guess, made some comment about him having worked in the garden and being because he was having all these intestinal issues and things. Yeah. And made some comment about him being around all these pesticides. And so they did a tox screen. And so it was her own doing, basically mentioning that. So they did a tox screen, found this obnoxious amount of arsenic in his system. And from that, they were suspicious enough, he's still alive. They were suspicious enough that they went back and pulled out the other 2 guys that died and confirmed huge levels of arsenic in there.
Exhumed them, huh?
Yeah. And then they looked up the mother-in-law and her father, And because they died of similar circumstances that were all deemed normal. And there was questionable levels, but not necessarily lethal levels. And then there's also the question of time and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Half-life.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. And so, like I said, she was sentenced to a lethal injection in January of 1991. And there's like an automatic appeals process that happens with that. And so she's still currently sitting in jail, still going through all these appeals. She still claims entirely innocent all the way around, and claims there was a couple of times in the past, like before this ever came up, that her house was set on fire by someone. And so she claims total innocence on all of this. But there's like all of these ex-lovers and chaos and everything, and chaos involved. And I just thought that was super interesting because I think on the one hand, we think in the digital age things are so much worse, but I think a lot of times we're just not as we just don't we didn't have the access.
If you look at stats, then
and so
it's getting better.
Yeah, I just think it's really interesting. And so often we hear about, like, you know, guys being these big creepers, but it's not just guys that are scumbags of the world. But also, maybe learn a little bit more on it, is they actually wrote a book on her called Preacher's Girl. And there was actually a movie done called Black Widow Murders.
Was it a Netflix original?
No.
I don't want to watch it.
It was, I want to say it was made in like the 90s. It's a little older.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to watch it.
But there is a book, there is a movie. Cool. And yeah, she's still alive. She's still going through appeals and still claims she had nothing to do with any of it.
I mean, how else do you get arsenic? Like, I don't understand what arsenic is, I guess.
It's like rat poison. And so it's like you can, or like I think one of the things I read said like ant poison. So it's in a lot of like vermin poisons.
Okay.
And so it's something that
people don't normally have in them.
You can have it.
You can accidentally get it?
I mean, no, you would get it, but you can get it, and it's like when I am sick and I go to the store and I buy Sudafed and they make me sign a thing saying I'm not going to make meth. Because if I bought 20 cases of Sudafed, I can make meth, but having one case of Sudafed is fine.
I'm saying, so how do you get it in your person?
Right. You would not ingest, you could, in theory, accidentally ingest arsenic, but not to a lethal level, really. You'd have to be kind of dumb to do that. But yes, like...
Maybe some people just like the taste.
No. I mean, if you watch The Sixth Sense, it's got a taste. Because she poisoned... The mom was like keeping one of the first ones that the kid visited. I don't know. She's like poisoning the soup. But yeah, I just thought it was a really interesting, trying to cover a good bit of history there, but
cool.
Crazy lady poisoning people everywhere.
Cool.
All right, so I'm gonna, I guess, chug this beer here.
Yeah, because we got
to rinse these glasses out.
We got other stuff to get to.
Yep. So that is the general Concord area.
Hold on.
Oh, nope.
I'm going to time you.
Oh, God. Okay. This is actually happening. Go.
Bang.
Mm.
6 seconds.
I mean, that was like...
a third of a beer.
Yeah, I think a third is generous. That was probably like a quarter.
Hey.
I'm not a chugger, guys.
Okay.
All right, so... if you're watching the video, you're going to have a nice quick jump cut while we rinse these glasses so we can taste the Salud. And if you are on the audio podcast, you're going to hear a nice random changeover to the next segment now. All right, so we are back and we have clean glasses, which is very helpful when tasting a new beer. And now we are going to sample this wonderfully colorful crowler from Salud Cerveceria. Somebody teach us to say anything.
I think it's
Please.
Cerveceria.
Cerveceria.
Because it's cerveza.
Okay. Oh.
So Cerveceria.
I spoke French, not Spanish. Or
Cerveceria. That's what I'm going to go with.
I'm good with that. We're drinking a Salud Tippa.
Yep.
And I'm going to let Drew tell you all about it while I try to pour this bad boy.
Que humo.
I
It's a
did.
J. So
Oh, goodness. I can't even open it wwithout making a mess.
Kehumo.
When I ordered it, I looked at the guy and I was like, can I get Kejumo? And he was like, yeah. Like, because I had done I'm going to pronounce this terribly. But,
Yeah, Kejumo.
he also may not have known.
Yes, it is a triple IPA. 11.5%.
Oh, goodness.
So
Good thing I have eaten recently.
nice. Let me get this information here. It's a triple IPA brewed with wheat and copious amounts of oats.
All the oats
Like
today.
the last one, yeah.
That was not planned, actually.
Yeah. Hopped heavily with Eldorado and Citra Cryo hops. So a little Eldorado
Let's see what's going on there.
and oats again.
The first pour out of a crowler is really hard because it doesn't get proper airflow, so you've got to glug it just to make sure it doesn't spill out.
Sure. So I don't know why it's hovering in the air.
I was trying to wait for the foam to go down. All right, so you keep talking. I'm going to taste.
Yeah. So should be heavy, like the last one. A little more full-bodied, as they say.
And definitely more full-bodied.
Okay. What about
Heavy. It was a bad sip because it was also still full of foam, but I think it's fruitier than the last. Having recently just contemplated this oat in your beer conversation with the Cabarrus, I definitely get a more potent sense of that here.
Okay.
I don't know.
I
I don't know. You give it a shot.
Yeah, thanks. Been waiting for that.
Oh, well, I didn't know you needed my permission. Also, this will definitely drink in my category. But, yeah, it feels like thick.
Yeah, yes, it will definitely drink. It's in my it'll drink category.
If it's in my it'll drink category, I can't see it not being in yours.
Yeah, I would put it. I don't know. I'm trying to compare now the two. You said you thought it was fruitier than the last one?
Maybe.
I think the last one was fruitier.
Yeah, you also said that when we were at Cabarrus. Yeah. And you thought that was fruitier than the other one we had tasted, and I disagreed
that
there.
That was called
also.
So Juicy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that other one was fruitier for me than this one as well.
Interesting. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Maybe your palate just pulls that out of that one better.
Certain
it just hits you right.
ingredient they got.
I don't know.
So I would put this as the new number 2. Right below Stratisfaction for me.
Again, I liked Stratisfaction. I can't remember it well enough to give it a proper ranking. Yeah. So I have nothing to go on but Cabarrus forward at this point. Mm-hmm. And I would have to put Cabarrus above this one.
Okay.
I think this is very good. It's not like this is, like, yes, it's technically at the bottom of my list now, but it will stay in the top of that list as more come in, I'm sure. But I liked Cabarrus a little better.
I just think, for me, it's less juicy. Mm-hmm. I do like the full-bodiness.
I do like the full-bodiness. I almost feel like it's too full. Like, apparently Dippas are where my happy place is. The Tippa's a little too much, and just the IPA is cool. It's home. I can stay there, but it's not where I really want to be. The Dippa's my happy place.
But yeah, less fruity for me. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm putting it above Cabarrus.
That's fair. Yeah, I think it's just a little too thick for me.
Yeah.
It's definitely not bad. Enjoying it.
I mean, you can't see through that thing at all.
No. No, sir. So, quick facts about Salud. It was founded in 2017, and the brewery was founded in 2017, but it actually started out of the concept of Salud Bottle Shop. And that was opened in 2012. And the couple who started it actually were doing like banking and the really corporate suckfests that we know decently well. And they were like, this sucks and we're just miserable, and took a leap. And so they opened Salud Bottle Shop, and 2 years later got interested in homebrewing, and another 2 years after that got the opportunity to purchase the upstairs location of their bottle shop and went for it and turned it into the brewery.
Nice.
And the rest is history.
Nice.
So that's where they're at.
They're a very colorful bunch.
They sure are. But it is a really cute, like, it's a very small space, but it's super cute. Like, it's very cozy and comfortable and has a lot of life in it, considering it's so small and compact.
I'd say it's cozy because their ceiling's so short.
Mm-hmm. But it gives it a whole, it gives it like that historical context, because the ceiling is so low, and like we had mentioned today, the windows are like much closer to the floor. Yeah. And so it gives you that kind of,
I guess, not touching the ground.
Right.
The floor, yeah.
It's significantly closer than you would expect it to be. Mm-hmm. But they've got a lot of greenery in there. They've got a little open skylight or two to brighten it up some, and
got some indoor murals.
Yep. And some like plush couches and stuff. And then parts of the walls are just completely coated. Like the wallpaper is actually a Spanish to English dictionary. Yeah. Which I just think is cool. And a nice touch.
Yeah.
And very fitting for the Noda environment to kind of like repurpose, but in keeping. I think it's a really cool space.
Yeah.
Cool. So it is now time to reveal our round one winners and who is moving on to round two in the buzz bracket. Need to find a nice way to say that to make it the like, ha ha, and then there'll be memes about me and it'll be terrible, but we'll find a way.
Wow. That's all I got to say. Wow.
I mean, that's standard. Like, wow.
No. Like, wow.
Whatever. Steal my post thunder.
So, first matchup, 116.
Noda versus Three Spirits.
Yeah, Noda had the highest score of any other brewery.
Killed it. Yeah, they killed it. Yeah. Insanely.
What did we figure out the average?
Approximately, it was an average of just shy of 675 per matchup.
Yeah, so about 675 votes per matchup was the average. And Noda came in with a score of
646.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That was
it was a trouncing.
Yeah, I mean, and it probably wouldn't have mattered who was up against Noda.
Yeah, agreed.
You know, like
it might have been a slightly tighter race, but
yeah, like maybe Birdsong.
Mm-hmm.
But
Lenny Boy did well. Heist, Sycamore, you know, some of the kind of
mainstays.
Yeah.
Yeah, Noda was the only brewery in the 600 range. Mm-hmm. And they were halfway to 7.
Yeah.
So, killed it.
Mm-hmm.
No spoon.
This is a movie reference, isn't it?
No.
Oh. What's it from?
It's from the Kraken.
The what?
Defensive end, Panthers.
Oh.
Kraken.
So I'm sucking as a newly minted charlatan. Somebody teach me this word. Okay, thanks.
Dang it. Okay, but yeah.
I've heard you say it before, but I didn't know.
Yeah, Greg Hardy. That's what he had for breakfast. He said cereal.
Kills it. No spoon.
No spoon.
I see. Okay.
So.
I've heard you say it. I just didn't know what the reference point was on it.
Yeah. So now we're at
Salud and Cabarrus.
Yep. This tightly contested.
It seriously, watching this matchup was like watching UNC and Duke. And I say that
having only seen one game.
Accurate. But literally, okay, here's the breakdown. Watching it happen 4 days in a row on Instagram. Yes, there were.
You're going to go day by day.
I'm not going to give the full number breakdown, but yes, there was voting on Twitter and Reddit, but watching just the voting on Instagram we were within 5 votes of each other on day 1, and we had one person up. The next day, we had the opposite person up by 15 votes. The next day, we had the first person up, and then the 4th day, dead tie.
Yeah. 50%.
It was so back and forth and so close that the percentages were 49-51 if they were off.
Yeah.
And then it was the same way on Twitter and Reddit too. It was just so close. And in the end,
Salud.
they beat him out.
Yep.
So Salud is moving on.
I tried to tell you that this beer was better, but you didn't listen.
They were highly contested. It was the closest matchup. So
yeah, I mean, that's why we're doing this 2 beer thing.
I know. I'm saying you may think you're right, but not by much.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a really fun one to just watch the voting happen.
Keep an eye. That's the only one we kept an eye on.
Mm-hmm. So the next one was Wooden Robot and Ass Clown.
It's the 5 versus the 12.
Mm-hmm.
And Wooden Robot.
We need something way more exciting to announce these. We're just and yep, cool.
Well,
there's so many. I don't know how to make it more exciting right now. Should we just kind of throw them since we got a lot of other stuff? All right. So the next was actually a pretty interesting one to watch for a little bit there too. It was Unknown and Suffolk Punch. And
at first it was close.
Yeah, they started to pull away. But ended up being Unknown, taking the W. So they will be moving on. Up next, we got Old Mech and Old Dallas, and I don't think there was really much of a question who would win that one.
Yeah. Just don't know enough about Old Dallas.
Yeah, just too small a name against too big of a name.
Yeah.
Too early on.
So Old Mech.
Mm-hmm.
Resident Culture and Bold Missy. Resident Culture?
Yep, that is in fact.
Okay.
There was a lot of heated votes for Bold Missy. Just, feminism, only female run. There were. Only female run brewery.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of excitement around that. But ultimately, Resident took the win. Sugar Creek and High Branch.
This one let me down.
That was your Cinderella, wasn't it?
Yep. High Branch was my Cinderella. And Sugar Creek had it the whole way.
Sure did. That was a sad day.
Yeah. So the untapped score doesn't really mean much. Because High Branch were the highest.
I mean, it does also come down to who you've activated on social media. So
yeah, the Horde.
Mm-hmm. Maybe the Horde just didn't know.
Yeah.
Next, we've got Lenny Boy and Cavendish. And that was a pretty...
lopsided.
Pretty lopsided.
Yeah, Lenny Boy had third most votes.
I believe so, yeah.
Just behind Birdsong and Noda. So, good showing from them.
Yeah. And that's another one. They've got their beer side, their kombucha side. So they're in a lot more markets as well. But
they have a dog on the logo.
they're just hitting it from everywhere.
I mean, they had the female
activate
vote.
in every horde.
Yeah. Now we're on to the right side of the bracket. Bracket number 1 verse 16.
Mm-hmm. So we got Birdsong and 26 Acres.
And Birdsong.
Yep. Again, that was our second most.
Yeah, second
scored.
most votes.
Mm-hmm. And then we move on to D9 and Divine Barrel, which is probably the next closest of a matchup that we had.
Yeah, at least throughout the whole period.
Right. It was nowhere near as close as Salud and Cabarrus, but if there was another one that was sort of tight and, could have swung.
We kind of kept our eyes on it.
It was D9 and Divine, but
Yeah.
ultimately D9 took that one.
They won the third. No, they didn't win the third day. Okay, never mind. I thought they did.
No, D9 did win straight across the board, but it was pretty close there from time to time.
All right. Legion and Legal Remedy. Got a lot of love for both of these guys. Mm-hmm. Both of these breweries, because they activated their hordes
early and continuously.
Early and often.
Mm-hmm.
Legion pulled it out at the end, but excited to see where Legal Remedy is next year.
Yeah.
I
think they had a decent growing rookie season in the bracket, and have the potential to watch back
a small market team.
Yeah. And they can watch back some tapes and make some progress next year. Then we move on to Catawba and Town. Kind of a juggernaut versus the little guy, but also the actual local versus the sort of local.
Yeah.
But in the end, the big guy has more horde.
Yeah, Catawba.
So
I mean, it's a solid place, but
yeah.
Come on, Charlotte.
I will say that this obviously was a social media voting thing, so that plays a huge part of it. And so Town did kind of, like, we notified all the breweries weeks before we started this, but we're obviously aware that some would see it, some wouldn't, some whatever. But we did everything we could to make it as fair and even as possible so that everybody could promote themselves. And we made sure we were tagging everybody so they could promote as we went. And so Town, I think, finally caught wind of it right there on the last day. And so you can see in their votes, they stayed sort of consistent in the votes they were getting each day. And then that last day when they did promote it, they got twice as many.
Yeah.
And so that did make a big difference. But obviously by then it was far too late. And even still, they weren't quite making the numbers that Catawba was making. But activating that horde is crucial. Just crucial.
You gotta do it, guys. All you gotta do is like click a button, share some
repost.
Things. Yeah. Sycamore and King Canary.
It's another one.
Yeah, I'm really interested in King Canary. We need to go check them out for sure. Couldn't withstand the Sycamore
juggernaut. Crew. Yeah,
but
I'd say, I mean, they're probably one of the like top 5 in the area of big names. I mean, I realize there's a lot of them that are big names, but if you're gonna call some really big names, I'd give that top 5.
Yeah. So I mean, tough matchup for them, but we're gonna have to go check them out. I like their branding and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
it's true. I mean, absolutely. All of these we're gonna get to at some point.
With the podcast, we'll hit it up after the bracket sometime.
And if you're from any of these breweries and want us to come to you first, hit us up, because we're always just kind of throwing darts at a list as to which one we're going to do next.
Yeah, pretty much. Who has a new release that looks interesting? We'll do that that week. Yeah.
What's going on in current events for your brewery. So next up, we've got Free Range and Blue Blaze, which was probably the third closest matchup.
Yeah.
And Free Range pulled that one out in the end. Nothing else really super exciting to analyze on that one. We've got Triple C and 4001 Yancey, which brews at 4001 Yancey, which again was one that
hit it late.
Yeah, 4001 Yancey hit it up real late and posted on Monday about it, and you could see the difference in the votes they got.
But it was like garbage time points.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have had to just crush it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
and I mean, for that last day, they did
have a record day of votes.
The last day, they did crush it. But it was already far too late. And Triple C was already pulling in such good numbers the other days that even though they pulled in great numbers that last day, it just wasn't enough to overcome. Yep. So activate your horde sooner.
Early and often.
Yeah.
Early and often.
So Triple C takes that one home.
Last matchup.
We got Heist and Amor Artis.
Yeah. Amore Artis held up decent though
They really did, actually.
against.
Because there are
against
several,
Heist.
yeah, there are several that were kind of smaller names and
Yeah.
whatever. And I mean, Heist's one of the top 5, I would say for sure. And compared to how some of the other smaller names fared, Amore held in
Yeah.
there for sure.
They did
Definitely
great, yeah.
didn't pull it out. Sorry, guys, but they held their own. So I appreciate that fighting spirit.
Yeah. Do you got any honorable mentions for losers?
In what sense?
Either thought they did well or interested in seeing more of.
Well, I'll start with Amore
Look
Artis.
into
Just
them next year.
sheer grit to hold out to the end. Cabarrus, I mean, I think that's going to be our rivalry. So I'm excited to see how that goes next year.
Yeah, I bet you both of them may be ranked higher next year.
Yeah, I could see
they
that
may
for
not
sure.
see each other early.
And yeah, the
But
rankings and
maybe a
everything is
second round
going to happen significantly different next year. We're going to involve many more breweries, so it's going to be a brand new ball game. So be on the lookout for that next year. But until then, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Suffolk, I would like to see how they do next year.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup. They have to.
Suffolk and Unknown, I feel like we're very well matched from the beginning.
Yeah.
Kind of on that same level. And obviously I'm partial to Unknown, so I am glad they pulled it out, but I am sad to see Suffolk Punch go so early on.
Yeah. If I'm just looking at numbers for like the lowest seeds, 26 acres.
Yeah.
I mean, they went up against Birdsong.
They went up against Birdsong, and they pulled out some decently high numbers.
Yeah. They might have beat a few guys that made it through to the next round. You never know.
Yeah, if it was a different matchup, they could have gone further.
Yeah.
Also one that I'm really interested to check out, also after learning the history of their name, but...
Yeah.
And I am impressed, I think Town, especially being a very new guy on the block. I mean, they're less than a year old.
Yeah.
And they pulled some pretty good numbers against Catawba. So, I mean...
Yeah, we definitely need to head back there, too.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how that matchup goes in the future, or just like how they can improve their numbers. So, all in all, I think it was a really great first round. We had nearly 11,000 votes overall.
Yeah.
Which...
Quite good.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty good for
I'm happy with it.
Buzz Bracket year 1.
Let's get 20,000.
When? Oh, for round 2. Yeah. I was like, next year?
Which would mean
That's chump change.
Which means you'd have to quadruple the numbers because we have half the.
Ooh, yeah, you're right.
So maybe the same. Let's try to get.
Let's match that for round 2.
Let's go to 11,000 again.
We just learned how important it is to activate your hordes, so get them activated.
Yeah. That
now
would
is
just
the time.
mean we doubled the votes. If we got 11,000 again.
So let's do it.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah. So ultimately, we had all of the top seeds in the matchups did end up winning. And so again, their seeding was based on social media and just showing how important the activation is. So moving into round 2, things to keep in mind. And if you are in support of any of these specific breweries, make sure that you are promoting them yourselves, whether if you're a brewery or just someone who loves it. Just promote
or you want
it.
your bracket
Yeah.
to win.
If you've put in a bracket and you've picked these guys as winners,
It helps
it helps you if they win.
Yeah.
So get everybody you know to vote for them. Make it happen. All right, so let's talk through these matchups for round 2.
Okay. Noda and Salud.
Ooh.
There's going to be a bunch of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Round 2 is about to be like fierce.
Yeah. Untapped score for Noda, 3.84. 3.98 for Salud.
Okay.
So, pretty fairly even.
I'm still, especially based on the numbers that we just had, I can't not give that to Noda. And Salud did really well, but again, if it was that tight of a matchup with Cabarrus, I can't imagine them holding that close to Noda.
Noda
No offense.
highest scoring offense in the league.
Yeah.
They put up the numbers.
Yeah.
So, You gotta bring it. Mm-hmm. Gotta play good defense too. I don't know how you play defense. It's pretty much just all offense, but you play defense by offense with this voting because you can't vote for both.
Right. You play defense by sharing once. You play offense by sharing twice.
All right.
Because every time you share once, you're just negating the votes that are already there.
Yeah.
So that's the defense, and then the offense is taking it a step further. Boom.
Jeez.
All right. So, I'm gonna have to give that to Noda. I assume you're at the same. All right. So matchup 2. Well,
if you need more information on that, I'll have a graphic here. You can't see it if you're watching the podcast, or listening to the podcast, which you should probably watch the podcast on YouTube.
Yes.
Those graphics look pretty good, guys.
They do look really good. They look way better than our faces sitting here talking about it.
So,
but
yeah,
it's worth a shot. And hey, if you support our brewery bracketness and get involved and like what we're doing and hit that subscribe, comment, all that shenanigans, that helps support our channel so we can get better equipment and all the good gear so that our faces look better on the video.
Yeah, so they're not all this grainy junk we got going on.
We can get better cameras and make the video better to match those awesome graphics that we've got in place.
Yeah. So matchup 2
is Wooden Robot and Unknown.
Yeah. So it's a 5-4 matchup here. I don't know. I mean,
if we're looking at straight votes from round 1, Wooden Robot takes it, but that's also based on who your matchup was. So I don't think that's a valid comparison.
I think Unknown and Suffolk,
yeah, it's a totally different
scenario. They had a slow-paced game, tight scoring, back and forth. Mm-hmm. So it was a little more contested than Wooden Robot had it.
Sure.
But we'll see.
I mean, obviously I'm biased in this round anyway.
Unknown's the higher seed.
The higher seed.
Theoretically.
They're my bias.
Yeah.
Next up is going to be an interesting one, in my opinion. We've got Old Mech and Resident Culture.
So OG versus new kid in the plaza.
But Resident Culture has like a cult following.
Yeah. And
I'm really interested to see how this one goes. If it's just sheer time and perseverance and, I'm the GOAT type of Old Mech feel versus Resident Culture, who's like, I feel like this is almost like a Jordan and LeBron type of matchup.
I mean,
did I take it too far?
Probably.
I mean, I don't like
to
liken.
That never happened, and this is happening.
I don't like to liken Old Mech to Jordan because I'm a Jordan fan all day, and I'm not the biggest Old Mech fan. But I feel like, they were the first. They were they set the standard, and everybody built off of what they started. And Resident Culture, I feel like, took that and they went.
Yeah.
And I feel like they've got a good following. So I think that's actually going to be a very interesting matchup. I think that'll be the matchup to watch this round, quite frankly.
Possibly, yeah. I can see that.
Personally, I like Resident Culture's beers better, but they tend to stick with the hazy, they stick with the IPAs.
Yeah.
And Old Mech doesn't have any. And that's just their styles. That's nothing to do with them personally. But if we're going on taste alone, I'm personally picking Resident Culture, but I really think that's going to be the matchup to watch.
We'll let you know next week. So, Sugar Creek.
I mean, you let us know which votes.
Oh, yeah. Sugar Creek, Lenny Boy. Mm-hmm. A 7-2 matchup. Lenny Boy kind of double dips with their fans.
Yes, that's true.
So we'll see how that works.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to call that one for Lenny Boy, but that's sure to be a good game.
To either one.
It's going to be a good game.
So, yeah.
I'll be happy to watch it happen. Left side of the bracket. Right side of the bracket. My brain doesn't do left and right correctly, apparently. We've got Birdsong and D9.
1-8. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Birdsong second highest.
Yeah.
D9 struggled, not struggled.
But it was a tighter race.
Yeah. Hard fought battle against Divine. Maybe they'll be wore out,
Back-to-back games get hard.
Yeah. So, we'll see.
I think Birdsong has, not that D9 doesn't have a good name and isn't known well, but I feel like Birdsong just has the edge.
Yeah. Plus, they got solar panels. Do you know that?
I did know that, actually. I forgot about it.
For the Earth.
But I did know that. I think the next one's actually going to be kind of interesting, too. So we've got Legion and we've got Catawba. Now.
Yeah, it's like the unicorn versus the Yankee kind of thing. We got Legion, who's the, OG Plaza Midwood. Mm-hmm. And we got Catawba, that's the transplant Plaza Midwood.
You're not wrong.
So.
I like what you did there.
I'm going OG.
I mean, I am too. And that's what I think. Catawba has the potential to have a bigger following.
Yeah, for sure.
But also Legion now has a second location in South Park, which we also need to try out just to see it. Yeah. But so they're hitting a second, kind of demographic, a new location to help build their support from. So, but it comes down to activating your horde, and Legion is
they've been doing it
active and often.
Yeah.
What was that?
Early and often.
Early and often. I was like, I couldn't come up with the first word he said. But yeah, they have been on it since day one, and I suspect they'll continue to be. So
let's see what you
I will say Catawba did latch on right there at the end and did make a big shift in the votes they were bringing in when they did. Yeah. So it could be interesting because now that it's on their radar,
True.
it might just come down to really activating the horde versus just putting it in front of their faces. So time will tell. But yeah, I'm gonna pull for Legion on that one. I think I feel a little biased towards them now that they've been our OG.
Yeah. Sycamore and Free Range, 6-3. I like Sycamore in this.
I do too.
They're the lower seed, but
I like Sycamore in this too.
Yeah.
They've got the longer standing name.
I mean,
they've got a good horde.
But King Canary also put up a good fight against Sycamore.
They did.
For the seeding difference.
That's true. But King Canary was much more active on the social media than either Sycamore or Free Range.
Sure.
So their good fight may have been.
Yeah. We really don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna call it for Sycamore, but
all the low seeds could win this time.
Mm-hmm.
And it would just completely flip the script.
Yeah. Totally good. And our final matchup, we've got Triple C and Heist. I think that's going to be a good one to watch, too.
Yeah, a bunch of, not OGs, but
kind of classic Charlotte breweries.
2011 and 2012 were when they were founded.
I mean, that's kind of OG in this area.
They've been around for a while.
I mean, because OMB was 09?
09, yeah.
So, I mean, that's, for 11 and 12, that's still pretty early on.
This is a, 2-7? Yeah. 2-7 matchup. So will it stay on par and high seed win everything? Or will Triple C get an upset?
I mean, I think that's a really hard one to call. I think. Yeah.
I mean, Triple C had a hard fought battle with 4001. Mm-hmm. But that's 3 breweries.
Right.
It was basically 3 against 1.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I don't know. I think that one's hard. I think I'm going to have to maybe call it for Heist. I mean, again, they're 2 locations. They're a lot more in the social realm right now, too, being built up. So there's a lot more buzz around them. Pun intended. And I said buzz. We're the Charlotte Buzz.
Oh, yeah. I forgot.
What? So I might have to call in their favor, but I think that's also going to just be a really, really fun matchup.
Yeah, I'm going with Heist just because I like their chicken and waffle tacos.
Y'all, if I was not Southern at heart already, that would turn me.
Those are so good.
They are so good. Well done, Heist.
Yeah. And they don't always have them. I would order them every time.
They have them, but we went during brunch the one day, or breakfast brunch.
They feel brunchy to me.
I agree, but they did something with like pancakes or something.
I don't know. But they need them on every menu they have.
It's on the regular time we show up menu.
Every menu. Anytime I show up, I want them. That's why I go most of the time. Or for Stratisfaction now. Except it was like a limited release, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Anyways.
So that is round 2. So voting opened at midnight. So it has already been open for 7 hours if you're catching this the minute we release this podcast.
Yeah.
If you're catching it later, get going because it closes Monday at midnight. So you can catch voting on Reddit, on Twitter, and probably easiest and most important on Instagram.
Yeah, Instagram, you get multiple votes.
Right.
Every day there'll be a new vote up.
Yep.
So
follow us at Van Gogh Creative, VANGO Creative. And in our stories, we will be posting all of the votes each day. Four opportunities you get to vote. And make sure you follow us to get updates and all of that.
Yeah, so like, comment, subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts. On YouTube, you'll get to see my awesome graphics that I spent
They are sweet.
endless hours on.
And that's
And
also
I'm
not a
gonna
joke.
have to do when I get off here.
The sleep factor during this, guys, is we're not sleeping and we're drinking a lot of beer. So all in all, we're going to be a hot mess after this. So
Yeah.
help us.
Yeah, so subscribe.
Yeah.
God.
If nothing else, subscribe just to support our sleepless nights and
You ain't even gotta watch it.
drunken
No,
stupidity.
do watch it.
Give us the watch minutes.
So
All right. So, like I said, voting's open. So get on them right now. And we will see you all next week with round 2 winners and matchup previews for round 3.
check you later.
Bye.